Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Wanted to connect up with you, just give you some updates and a few other little things. But first, I'm always getting reminded to remind everybody, if you haven't been or if you haven't subscribed to the channel before, please go ahead and subscribe and click on the notification bell. That will alert you to any new content that we add in, upcoming videos. We've got some trips coming up, of course. But I wanted to, in the interim, I wanted to add something in here that I think is kind of relevant with what's going on in today's world. So we are currently getting our morning walk in on a Saturday, off to get some coffee at Dunkin'. So let's go get that coffee, get situated, and I'll tell you a little bit about more what's going on. Okay, so what's going on? Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that's been kind of bothering me over the last couple of weeks or so, as it's been all over the news regarding world events. And I felt that it was kind of important that I maybe, add some perspective to this, or at least give you an opportunity to see some things that'll be maybe somewhat surprising to you. As most probably everybody's aware, Tucker Carlson recently made a trip to Moscow with the sole purpose of interviewing Vladimir Putin. Make no mistake about it, as a journalist, he did what any journalist on any side of the aisle would have done had they been invited to do so. So he actually made a trip over there. And I'm not really focused so much on the interview itself. There's a lot of different opinions about, whether it was a difficult interview, a soft interview, or a hard interview, etc. I'm not really concerned about that. What I am concerned about was he also made some videos in and around Moscow, and sort of highlighting a lot of things that most people don't or didn't expect or were not aware of, perhaps. About how wonderful the subway system is, and the architecture, and a variety of other things. And it's the reason it struck a chord with me is because there were many people that were criticizing that sort of as propaganda, and a variety of other things. But what's interesting is the majority of the people who are talking about these kinds of things and saying that it was propaganda and it was all show, they've never been to Russia themselves. So they have no firsthand. And it's estimated, rough statistics are about, 1/10% of the American citizenry has actually visited the country of Russia. So why is this important to me? Well, because in 2019, I was a part of that 1/10%, and I actually made a trip to Russia. So many of the people that are following the channel now probably had not gone back and saw some of the early videos that I made. And in fact, my trip to Russia was a documentary that was the very first full documentary that I had done of my travels. The one thing that I did do, which in hindsight was a mistake, but it was my very first time kind of doing that, was that I made one single video of the entire trip, and as a result the video length came out to be about 1 hour and 13 minutes long. So that's not kind of a conducive to what a lot of people do, is watch short clips on YouTube and follow a series. So what I thought I would do was to take that video that I made and edit it down into smaller clips, into a series that might be a little bit easier to watch. And what I'd like for people to do is to just watch that from my experience. There was no agenda or motive behind that. I just basically did a full video of what I experienced in my 12 days in Russia. Now, most of my videos now, I use music to tell a story. I put a lot of popular music into my videos and help enhance the overall story and interest. when I looked at this video, I realized that I did not put any music in this whatsoever, so it's much more raw and live. And so I've decided to not edit it in any way other than to chop it down into bite-sized video segments. But I'm going to leave it as is so you can actually see there's a lot of interaction with Russian people, a lot of different things that I was experiencing, and including the subways and the architecture. Because what I wanted everybody to see is basically what I saw. And much like, from what I understand, this was Tucker's first time ever going to the country. So he exerted some significant enthusiasm and surprise at what he experienced, much the way I did, after having so many years of being ingrained that this was a country that was far inferior to the United States, and they had nothing, and a variety of other things, the old 1970s and 80s Soviet Union lining up for bread and all these rations and things, and that simply wasn't the case. So I want you to sit back and enjoy this series. Hopefully I can condense it down into time-wise that makes it more, popular for people to view. But I'd like to see, and hear from you and your comments and what you thought. But this is the Russia through my eyes. So have a go at this. Good morning, America. I'm coming to you today on this beautiful Thursday morning, standing in the center of Red Square. It's simply amazing. It hasn't really gotten kicked off yet because it's still early in the morning. It's only a little after 7:30 a.m., but there's actually quite a few people here. I've had a chance to stand in some of the most unique squares, Tiananmen, Trafalgar, and this is definitely one of the most intriguing ones as well. There's so many different things that you can actually see. And the look in my background here, that's actually one of the walls of the Kremlin. And I'm not going to actually take a tour of the Kremlin today because on Thursdays it's not open. So actually I've got it set for tomorrow that I'm going to spend the majority of the day in there. So today is all about Red Square. And behind me you can see it's one of the largest department stores. It's now a mall called GUM. And we're going to go in there a little bit later on. We're going to try some of the ice cream. We're going to just walk around and see a lot of the Matryoshka dolls, which are the Russian nesting dolls, are actually found in a variety of different stores here. This is a huge square with cathedrals and all kinds of different shopping. And then also in the detailed background there, you can see that's actually St. Basil's Cathedral. We're going to take a much closer look at that and spend some time in there. And the first thing we've got coming up is, let's see, there we go. That little building there with the black banner and the writing, that's Lenin's mausoleum. And I'm going to actually go in there in a little bit. The interesting thing, when you plan a trip like this, you really have to do your research because there are so many different things that could happen. As it turns out, the mausoleum is only open on certain days of the week from 10 to 1. And that will be, we're going to try to get there right at 10 o'clock. You're not allowed to take any pictures in there. And you've got to remove things like hats and things like that to show respect. But we're going to go in there. I'm going to try to go in there at about 10 a.m. And then I've got a walking tour set up a little bit later. I've got a cruise scheduled on the Moscow River. And then tonight, starting at 5 o'clock, I've got another tour that's going to focus on all of the important elements from the Soviet era. So we're going to take a look at the place like the headquarters of the KGB and a few other things like that. But so follow along with me and let's go check all this stuff out.
这里现在没开。啊。
它这地方不平了。
现在是多难听啊。
So behind me is the Moscow River, and I'm going to be here later tonight taking a cruise. This river actually runs all the way through the city in a variety of sort of in a serpentine manner. One thing, it's just amazing the size of the buildings and everything that are here. Behind me, you can take a look and see how extensive the Kremlin is. I'm going to be inside all those walls tomorrow. And it's got its own park inside. There's several different cathedrals. It's just going to be an incredible experience. But we're going to do all that tomorrow. So this is Moscow's famous department store, shopping mall, really, GUM. And the actual name is the Soviet department store. State's department store is the actual name of it, is what GUM stands for. All kinds of different types of stores, high brand, Gucci, Prada, everything. When the Soviet Union was in full force, they didn't have all of this brand, and it's definitely become a capitalistic system or capitalistic enterprise now. And what I'm looking for is the ice cream, the famous ice cream that you have to come here and get. So let's take a look and see if we can't find some ice cream. Here's the ice cream queue. So I found it. The Soviet Union ice cream. It was 100 ruble, about $1.50, somewhere around there. It was around 65 rubles to a US dollar. So around $1.50, somewhere around there. This is a delicacy when you come to GUM. So we're going to keep taking a look around a little bit more.
This is an amazing, if you can see the architecture that's involved here, everything is just so detailed in its design. Just an amazing place. So I'm here riding the metro for the first time with Alex. Alex is the guide who took me on the Soviet Essentials tour. And now I'm heading down to the cruise to do a 2-hour cruise on the river. And he was a great tour host, showed me a lot of things and helped me get my Metro card. Boy, this thing really goes down a long way. Look at that. Dobre Utre, America. Day 2, Moscow. And what we've got on the agenda today is the Kremlin. And we're going to be spending a good portion of the day in the Kremlin. I did get an admission to the Armory Chamber, which is a very, very famous museum, so forth. So a good portion of that will be spent inside there, also checking out some of the cathedrals inside the Kremlin grounds. Weren't able to go there yesterday, it's closed. I knew that ahead of time, so I had some other things planned. And right now, if you can actually see, I've got shorts on because it's a quite unseasonably warm in Moscow. The weather is supposed to be really fantastic for the rest of the time that I'm here. And St. Petersburg, not so much. It's not looking very good. Looks like we might have a lot of rain. So the plan is I'm going to head over to the Kremlin area now. I did see that there was a Dunkin' Donuts somewhere. It's on Arbot Street, which is a little bit further away, and I'm not going to have a chance to get there before. But Big Coffee here is not. I mean, coffee is all over the place, but it's in very small containers. The big extra large Dunkin' Donuts style that I like is very hard to come by, and if you do come by it, it's quite expensive. It's like $5-6 just for regular coffee, not any of that Starbucks stuff. So we're going to keep going. I'm walking down just one of the tiny little side streets to get there. I probably have about a 10-minute walk over to the Kremlin area. That tour is going to start around, I guess, 10:30, and if I'm lucky, I'll get a chance to see the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which sits there at Alexander Gardens. So let's get on with it. Day 2, here we go. And back we are at the entrance to the Alexander Gardens. And this is, behind me you can see what is known as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Much busier today in Red Square, probably having a lot to do with the fact that the Kremlin's open today. So there's a lot of tours that have come through. And I'm actually waiting. I've got a tour that starts in about 15 minutes. And I found some great little shops along the way. One little 24-hour grocery store that's in one of the underground people walkers, so that the population of Moscow is so great that, very much like in city of Las Vegas, they have instead of above ground, they have underground subways where people walk and cross the street rather than waiting for the lights to change, and the traffic is just it's intense. So I found this place there, a great little market. They sell everything, including wine and beer, all kinds of foods, snack foods, microwavable type things, and it's open 24 hours. So I was able to stop there and get some coffee. And we're just going to get ready to go in here. We're going to go inside the Kremlin. I'm going to take some time to check out the Armory Chamber, as well as see some of the museums and some of the cathedrals. And then I'm going to take some time probably to go to a very touristy area called Arbot Street. That's going to be a little bit later. From what I understand, there's all kinds of fun things to do down there. And then this evening I got a surprise planned. I haven't said anything about what I've got planned, but I've got something very, very different planned, and that's going to start around 5 o'clock tonight. Let's take a look and see what kind of day-to-day routine you get going on in Red Square.
Because they're so alike, and they. No, I know. Of course, I do try. And you think, oh, pretty.
See väikene, tavaliselt see väikene järjekord alati oli, et kiirelt.
Клубничная есть, прямо с кусочками клубники натуральные.
Coming up on the Four Seasons Hotel. This actually used to be known as the Hotel Moscow, and it was taken over quite a few years ago by Four Seasons. And this was actually built during the Soviet time, and what they found was that there were very few people actually coming to Russia. So the hotel hardly was ever used except for by diplomats and people in the government. Now it's a lot different. It's a Four Seasons Hotel. It's one of the classier properties in Moscow, and it sits at Red Square. It's probably a 5-minute walk into the Kremlin from here. A very famous statue of Marshal Zukov. He was the leader of the Russian army during World War II. Population very, very proud of him in that respects. And he's at the entrance, really, into Red Square. The building behind him that he's actually in front of is the State Historical Museum. So we're about to walk into the Kremlin. This is the entrance. And we're going to walk into the entire complex here.
正常嘛，这怎么搁呢？是这么搁，就是外面呢，就是铺一张这个画。
You're going to get to experience this with me at the very same time. We just had about a 30-minute orientation on the Kremlin itself, its history, and all the elements that are contained within inside. There's numerous cathedrals, many state office buildings. This is actually where Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, conducts his day-to-day routine and business. One interesting aspect is that there's a helicopter pad that he usually arrives from when he comes into work. And the reason for that is so that they don't have to disrupt all of the roads around the Kremlin and so forth. So here we are. This building on the left here is where a lot of the soldiers and people that work within the Kremlin actually live. The soldiers that guard the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier actually live in this building as well. This is a government building on the right. It's not open to the public because they have official business. Interestingly enough, if you take a look up at the top there, that's the Romanov symbol and crest. The Romanovs were the last ruling dynasty of Russia before the 1917 revolution. It's hard to imagine. Okay, so we just came out of the Armory Chamber, which is a museum inside the Kremlin. A lot of the information and relics that are there date back to a lot of the mid-century gold work and a lot of plates and religious artifacts, things like that, all made from solid silver and solid gold. One thing that was disappointing about it was the fact that there are no pictures allowed. So I can't really share that with you, which is kind of disappointing that they don't allow. One thing that was very, very impressive was a section where they had carriages that used to, chauffeur around the royalty and so forth. That was really, really impressive, the amount of work that went into designing those carriages. Very ornate and pretty glamorous. Unfortunately, I don't think I was able to show it to you. One little tip, if you are coming to the Armory Chamber at any time and you want to try to maybe sneak a picture or something, one thing I noticed is that they have audio guides that you can actually use your cell phone, download an app, and at least you can have your phone ready for maybe a quick shot or something, but they have people all around looking for that. But if that's something that you want to try. But yeah, very disappointing that they wouldn't allow photographs of any kind in there. Not sure whether or not it was worth it to pay the extra money, but something I did. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get back, so I am glad I did it. Well, we made it to Arbot Street. This is a very famous street. A lot of tourists, a lot of souvenirs, shops and things like that. It's closed to traffic, so it's just walking. And wouldn't you know, as I mentioned earlier this morning, it was difficult finding, cups of coffee and decent cups of coffee and large cups. Well, lo and behold, look what I found. Dunkin' Donuts, right here in Moscow. I'm gonna go in and get a cup. Okay, so we checked out Dunkin'. This is a large coffee. They do not have large sizes, not what we're used to anyways. So, still tastes good. I'm gonna enjoy it. Keep walking Arbot Street. So sorry about that. And we'll go from there. Still have that special surprise planned tonight. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so I promised you something earlier. It was going to be a different, something I've never done before, a surprise. This is Evgeny, and he is a professional marksman. And what he's going to do is he's going to show me how to shoot an AK-47 and the AK-74, the Kalashnikov. And we're going to just about ready to go in, and he's going to give me some instruction on how to do this. And then I'm going to get a chance to shoot him, and we'll see how it goes.
Good. They're on target.